Before we get to the intro, the podcast is going to be all about spicy things, as we were chatting just before. What do you have to say?
Right. So I said we should be pirates. So I think yesterday was the Talk Like a Pirate Day, and it got me thinking about pirates and Silicon Valley and all those kind of things. So Steve Jobs is famous for saying like, "Let's be pirates." And I think when LinkedIn founder, I think Reid Hoffman also had this big blog post that he had earlier on being a pirate and all those kind of things. And I feel we are slowly forgetting that when we talk about like DevOps and like the processes and cybersecurity and all that, we forget the DNA of the rebel, the renegade, the pirate that drives us all. And that has been my guiding post all through my career for the past 20 years. I mean, we should all be pirates. We should be more pirates than what we are now.
I mean, just to be clear, this is different from piracy,
Yes.
of course. So
Yes.
it's the spirit of the pirate that you're talking about. Do you
That's
want to
true.
expand on that more? What is
Oh
the
yeah,
spirit of the
absolutely.
pirate?
So there is spirit of the pirate is not to be encumbered by rules and processes and kind of like move fast and break things, right? I mean, they call it move fast and break things now, right? So the idea is that when you are working for a big company or this thing, you may have several layers of bureaucracy that you have to deal with to get something done, right? In the end, software is about expressing your ideas into code and making it work so that those systems work. And sometimes most of these processes are to aid engineering and not to be in the way. And when you find the processes are in the way, I feel it's okay to break them, right? It's okay to get around them a bit, like ship things. And the important thing is shipping. So the goal is that if something gets in your way of shipping, you should prioritize shipping over following a rule. My 2 cents.
Perfect. Of course, like don't follow the process to the verbatim, explanation of it, which takes us to the point that you should understand why a process exists. One thing is to follow it. Second thing is to
That's
understand the
right.
philosophy behind why it was created and what is the value that you're supposed to get out of it. With that spicy introduction, do you want to introduce yourself, Vagmi?
Yes. Hi, I'm Vagmi. My full name is Vagmi Budumbai. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm sure it'll all get linked down in the podcast
Yeah.
description. So I have been writing code, and somehow people have been paying me for it for the past 20 years. Actually, I have worked in companies both big and small. I worked with SAP Labs. I worked with small. I have started my own. I'm again starting my own like one person solopreneurs, kind of like a startup now, and it's very scary given that I have 2 kids and a mortgage. But yeah, that's me. So I tend to do pretty much everything across the board. I started off writing VB apps, ASP.NET, like JSP struts apps, and I've gone, onto the DevOps side. I've built mobile apps. I have architected big systems. I've played around with AI. I'm kind of like all over the place. So there's no one single bucket that I fit into.
Awesome. And you started your career from India, and currently you are based out of
That's right.
Canada.
Canada. That's right. So I moved here about 4.5 years back, and also set up our company here. Tarka Labs is set up here. It's a consultancy. We help our clients, scale systems, build new things, and essentially be an awesome technology partner for them. And we moved here because we wanted to stay closer to some of our customers whom we were working with at that time.
Awesome. What are some of your learnings from the 20 plus year career that you've had?
Right. So I mean, like looking back, right, 20 years looks like a long time, but it kind of like moved pretty fast. Um, um, I started off, I mean, my guiding post has always been about craftsmanship. So I always feel you need to be focused on the craft, and continue learning every day. And as you learn every day, you slowly start getting exposed to different things. And as you solve problems, get exposed to new things, I mean, you naturally become better. And I think Peter Norwich, I think he said, oh, become an expert programmer in like 10 years or something like that, because there used to be this Sam's 21-day books say, oh, learn something in 21 days, right? It was all the fad. Like when I was growing up, I think around like early 2000s, something like that. And it was, I mean, it is the thing that, okay, software development has always been a craft, right? I mean, there is software engineering and software craftsmanship. Often they are seen in opposition to each other, right? You say, "Oh, do you want to do good engineering or do you want to be a craftsman?" I say it's kind of orthogonal concerns. I would say, right? You have to be a good craftsman and you have to do good software engineering. So being a good software craftsman means knowing your system really well, understanding your IDE, understanding your like pair programming techniques, or understanding how you can do different sorts of testing with this thing, or understanding your tools better, right? And learning how to express things quickly with and experimenting on shorter loops, right? All that is a sign of a good craftsman. Good engineering is all about system architecture, putting larger systems in place, and how do you operate those large systems, right? And for that you need engineering. So there are two orthogonal concerns for me, and I think you should get good at both.
Isn't being a good craftsman a subset of being a good engineer? Can you be a good engineer without being a good craftsman? Seems like no,
Um,
because craftsmanship seems to be about smaller things where you know how to
right,
use the tools, you know what tools exist in the first place,
right,
you know which tool to use when and which tool to not use when, um,
true,
and it's just about using tools. So you have all the tools under your belt, and
right,
then you go out in the world and build big systems. So is it not
right.
like a subset of being a good engineer?
Yes and no. I think in order to be successful as a good engineer, you need to also embrace craftsmanship and become a good craftsman. But that said, people have built good systems where they have not necessarily explored the craft. Like someone who's um, essentially been building backend systems, or someone who's just been a game developer, only working on like 3D rigging models and like doing these things. You could be really good at what you do and like focus on one aspect of engineering alone and do that well and be a good engineer without being a good without exploring the craftsmanship. So you may have a very narrow focus, right? So when I say being a good craftsman is also to explore and make yourself uncomfortable from time to time. For example, you want to switch editor, so you're very comfortable with VS Code. You might want to switch to NeoVim or something like that, or Emacs, to figure out how they work, right? And then you will figure out, oh, there's this whole world of language servers that you can do, or you can customize these things this way, and so on and so forth, right? And that gives you a different perspective of this. Or you're working with a language like Python or Ruby or something like that, Java or something like that, then you take on like, oh, I want to do C, C++ or Rust, or go on to the functional programming side and say, oh, I want to look at Haskell, right? Or ML or things like that. And that actually is the essence of craftsmanship, is to always keep exploring and seeing, oh, is there a better tool that I can use? Or just learning a tool for the sake of learning, so that you can use lessons from that in another programming language that you use. Or say, for example, you learn functional programming, you can come back to Java and say, hey, I have lambdas here, I have did this, I have this idea of immutability in Haskell, and that's how it works. How can I apply that in Java, even if I'm using, just standard Spring and things like that? How do I embrace immutability there?
Do you think people have time today to do all this? um, in today's world, it's so fast paced, and there are startups, and people are always job hopping. That's a thing now. And
Yes,
apparently, people switch jobs every year as well. I have done that
right.
myself, by the way, in the beginning of my career. That had to do more with me not fitting into the company, and I was growing too fast. With all the free money flowing, now it has come to an end. But do people have time? And, like, do you see people do this realistically today?
I still see, I mean, statistically speaking, the distribution of, say, like people with these kind of interests are more or less the same. There are more people coming into software development now, given that it's a very lucrative field. Everybody on YouTube is like, oh, become a programmer now, earn six-figure salaries, those kind of things, and so on and so forth. Um, yes, there is a lot of, and in India, it happened even before it happened out here in the West, right? In India, software engineering was seen as the job, to get to. And
Yeah.
there's so many people. I mean, the Three Idiots were essentially, built on that. There is a AIB sketch, or somebody had a sketch where they had these engineers come in, and this is really funny sketches. But my
Mm.
point is, yes, there are a lot of people who are not passionate about this and who come in and so on and so forth. But there are also people who are passionate about it, right? And anybody who's listening to these kind of podcasts uh, is, I think, is self-selected in that bucket, right? So I'm talking to my people. If you are taking your time to listen to two people talk about technology, right, and
Yeah.
engineering and things like that, you're in the right crowd, right? You go to conferences, you're in the right crowd, right? You do open source programming on the side, and you're hanging around on some random Twitch guy streaming, building some open source stuff. You're in the right crowd, right? So for those kind of people, take time to learn these things, and they cannot not do it. It's almost a compulsion for them, right? And I was one of them, right? For me, I was eternally curious. I mean, I was like incurably curious, I would say, right? I mean, I had to know these things, and I think that's what was driving me to these things.
So how would you pick them up? Just pick an editor, pick a language, and read some articles, read some documentation, just tinker with it, try getting your
Absolutely.
hands dirty.
Right. I mean, nowadays, I mean, YouTube is a godsend now. I mean, I think pretty much
Yeah.
anything that you think of, there's a 4-hour YouTube tutorial out there explaining that. But even before that, right? But if you want to really know something, you have to build it, right? There's this really famous scene in The Matrix. It's one of my favorite movies forever, right? Where Neo goes to like meet Seraph, and then Seraph fights with Neo, right? And then he asks him to stop, and he said, "But you fought with me, right?" And he said, "Oh, you don't really know a person until you fought with them, right?" Or yeah, he says, "How do I know you are Neo?" And he basically makes this point. Seraph makes this point that you don't really know a person until you fight with them. And I have the same theory about programming languages or tools and things like that. You don't really know the tool unless you have fought with it, right? Rust, I picked up Rust first, and usually my go-to method of learning new tools is to just build something simple with it. Just pick something, set yourself a goal like, oh, I'm going to build a to-do MVC with this, or I'm just going to deploy some, controller with this, or something like that, right? Pick a random goal, and then like just jump straight in and start figuring out with the documentation, like give error prompts, things like that, so on and so forth. Most of my programming has gone very well through that. Even Haskell, to a certain extent, I work well. I mean, I actually started jumping into Haskell. I stepped back, and then I learned Learn Yourself Haskell for Great Good book, and then kind of like looked at Haskell again. Similarly for Rust, again, I started off like, oh, building a random thing because I was like, oh, this can't be as complicated as Haskell. I got it, and Rust absolutely kicked my butt. I gave up. I picked up Rust. I dropped it. I said, it's stupid. I can't figure it out. And then I picked it up a year later again. And there I actually went through the Rustling course and the Rust book and all that. And then I picked up Rust. Right. And now Rust has become my favorite language. And when I talk about tools and technologies, sometimes I talk about them very passionately, and people kind of confuse my enthusiasm with endorsement, right? And say, oh, he's so enthusiastic about
Hmm.
it, so I think he endorses this language, which is not true. I mean, given another language, I plan to pick up Zig next, to figure out, okay, how that works and so on. So I'm very promiscuous with my choice of technology. I keep like trying out different things. So yeah, goal is just pick something up, build something with it, run with it, see where it takes you.
This is seen as a big time waste by a lot of people. While I agree with you, the podcast audience is going to be in that tinkerer crowd, and
Right.
they would love tinkering. But
Mhm.
there are just scores and scores of engineers out there who are
Mhm.
very, very goal oriented. That
Right.
I have to get a job in Java. I have
Mhm.
to get a job in testing. I have to get a job in DevOps, whatever it is. I have to get
Right.
a job in Android development. So I learn Kotlin,
Right.
and that's it. And
Mhm.
I'll get on with it. And I would rather learn things that will get me hired, and that will make me
Right.
grow.
Right.
Um, is this a waste of, like, why is this not a waste of time? Do you want to expand on that?
No, I would say I would take a different perspective and say there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong if you just want to approach it. Say, hey, I want to just learn Java. I want to learn Kotlin. I want to just learn Android, and then like do that. There is so much to go in there, and if people just want to do that and get to a job, it's perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with that at all, right? But what that limits you, I feel, is that. We are in this day and age where computers are essentially the fabric of our society. Pretty much all the systems that we have in our society are running through these digital information systems that are out there. Whatever medium you choose, right? It's going to be a small slice of that thing, and you are basically just tasting it, right? But when you are exploring it in this way, you have a lot more creative latitude. It may not be for everyone. I completely agree. It is not something that many people would enjoy, or they find that, oh, it's a waste of time, which is okay. I mean, people have different interests, right? I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm curious about many things, but I'm not curious about sports. I don't watch a lot of sports, right? It's not me. I've tried to, honestly. I've had friends who said, "Hey, this is great. We should come and watch a 3 hour cricket match or like a whatever time that is, or things like that." Even now, I still don't know the rules about like T20 or things like that. Sometimes, like I randomly go watch a match when I'm like somewhere there, and I keep asking somebody, "Hey, who's this guy and who's that guy, or why is he doing this?" And I never know about all these things. And they're like, "Are you for real? Are you from India? You're from Chennai, and you don't know this?" It's like honestly, like people have different interests, right? I mean, so that
Got
that's
it.
just me.
Interesting. Very interesting. One analogy that comes into mind is when you're learning singing, right?
Mm,
You could learn either a particular type of singing, let's say Bollywood singing, or a lot of people from Bengal learn Rabindra Sangeet,
right.
or some folk music you'll learn, or in Western worlds, you'll learn some particular type of singing.
That's
And
right.
the most complex of it is classical music, either
Right.
Hindustani classical or Carnatic classical. Not everyone has appetite to be professional in that space, but
That's
it's
right.
good to learn because it creates a base and it allows you to absorb and flourish in one particular
Right.
niche. So you
Right.
might still end up being a Kotlin developer and just develop
Right.
Android apps. But if you're a tinkerer and if you're a pirate from the mindset, it will allow you to be a much better Android developer or a much better automation engineer than others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is like an opportunity of that's unique to our generation, I suppose, right? Where you with a $2,000 device or something like that, with even much lesser, you have the option to create $1 million or more of value, right? With just that, and that kind of leverage has not been there, or most people are not privileged enough to get that sort of leverage
Yeah.
even now. But in the previous times, it was inconceivable that someone with a little bit of a small investment on a device and a lot of information and knowledge that's freely available can actually massively create this kind of leverage. I mean, this is unheard of, right? And artists have known this for a long time, right? Because artists, musicians, they have seen this, right? I mean, they can create a piece of art or music that would give that kind of leverage with like people's this thing and all that. But here we are in that intersection of utility and art, right? So it's in that intersection, and which is what is very very interesting about computers and software and digital products and so on and so forth.
You're absolutely right. At least speaking about India, you can buy a 15,000 rupees laptop, which are called netbooks. There are these
Right.
10-inch netbooks that you get,
Right.
and you can have a cheap phone which has 4G
Right.
in it, some 5, 6, 7,000 rupees phone, and
Right.
like under 25,000, maybe under 30,000, you get set up, and the phone, of course, like internet is much
Mm.
cheaper here, and
Right.
the world of knowledge, you can access so much information
That's
and
true.
just be a tinkerer. Okay, so tell us
Absolutely.
some pirate stories from your growing up days? Like what, of course, you talk about tinkering, but can you talk about
Yeah.
a professional project on the job where it has
Oh
helped?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm notorious for my pirate stories. So let me give you one story. When I was working for SAP, and I was in the installation authoring team. So we used to build these next finish sort of like installers, right? And this was the time where software used to be shipped in CDs or DVDs, actually, or they used to be downloaded by FTP. The administrators would download it and then send it off to their fleet of laptops. So I was in the CRM mobile sort of a team.
Hmm.
And that team, um, eh, so when I say mobile, it was not this mobile. At that time, laptops were considered mobile because this was like a sales force that would essentially go from like a city to city and sell solutions, and they would have the software installed on it, and that would have a list of all the opportunities, this thing, like contracts, all this kind of stuff that they would fit in, and they would be able to retrieve it. And
Yeah,
we had this whole offline architecture. Yeah, I'm sorry.
what year was this?
This was 2003, 2004, sometime.
Okay, so well before
2004.
the
Yeah, it's about,
smartphone age.
yeah, much before the smartphone age. The Nokia, people had these Nokia communicators, Blackberries. The Nokia's like first touch screens, full screen touch phones had just come, and they were running Symbian S40 and S60 kind of like operating systems. It's that age, right? Think that age.
Yeah.
So so we were in this installation team, and we used to build these installers, and they used to frequently break because we depended on a lot of libraries being present as part of Windows installation. Like they need to have SQL Server Express installed, or they need to have a few registry settings set up, and so on and so forth. And they used to have all this complexity in there. And we used to, so our team was like a very sort of like a lean team. It was like 4 people supporting the installation part of the entire product, both internally and externally. So, and SAP used to eat its own dog food, right? I mean, whatever we produced was consumed by internal dev teams as well as our customers. And SAP was like very, very, and it was such a big company, and I learned a lot there. And they used to do these kind of practices even there. And we, we didn't have build machines, or we had our own build machines. So the first things we did when we set up there was to get rid of our build machines, and we integrated our packaging infrastructure with the build machines that the framework teams had already, right? So they had a framework team that was building .NET based frameworks, and we used to integrate with that so that at the end of their build, we would get an installation package that our internal application teams would use, right? So, and then so that we can test it internally before we send it out to the customer. And this is way back before any of the like startup things or like, dog fooding and all those things came. We used to do that. And we used to have this team called Shepherd of the Week, where every week, one of us, the devs, would basically be responsible for customer support. So we would essentially be on call, and we would get the L2 support. Essentially, L1 would still be handled by the support team. L2 will come when they cannot follow like whatever script that we give them, and it's not solved. And there, in order to make our lives easy, I built a small tool called ENB Checker, which is like a small .NET application, which was never supposed to leave our team. And just the 4 of us were supposed to handle it. It didn't have any signing, no security, nothing. It used to run a couple of like Iron Python scripts internally to quickly check, hey, is the connection to the database okay? Is the connection to are these DLLs present? Is the SHDocView DLL the right version that we want? So on and so forth. All that kind of, is the VB.com entries set properly? Maybe some iDispatch entry is gone wrong, or maybe there is an old installation that has not been cleared up. All those junk files still present, and all those kind of things. And it'll give a report on like red, green, all those kind of things. And it was there. So no one did this. So there's one guy in L1 support. They were based off in Germany, and he used to ping us a lot. And we used to find that our vacation schedules used to get affected by that. So we basically say, hey, this is a tool that we run as a part of L1 support. Maybe try running this locally on customer's environment, find out it's there, and so on and so forth. Now it got leaked to, I mean, like I had given it to L1, so I shouldn't say I leaked it, but then he had also leaked it to a customer of us, which is like a big pharma company, whatever, right? And they got it, right? And
Okay.
this never, so, and SAP had this release process where it had to go through component validations, the solution validation, all those kind of things. But this tool somehow got leaked everywhere, right, to the customer. And the customer was said that, hey, this is great. We don't have to get SAP support for some of our internal tooling issues. And we thank SAP for building this. And this goes all the way to the VP of the product, and it comes down. It's like, who built this tool? I mean, like, these are the kind of tools we need, but we never authorized it. Which part project is this? Which this thing is that? I was like, I was this guy in Bangalore doing this thing. And that's one pirate story, right? Because you don't have to follow rules, right? I mean, no one, it hasn't had to come out as an authorized project. I mean, this is basically laziness, right? And they say Larry Wall, the guy who created Perl, said there are these three great qualities of a good programmer: is laziness, impatience, and hubris, right? So I was lazy, I was impatient to get to this thing, and I felt that, hey, this is all be fine. I don't have to inform anybody. I can just build it on my time and then like just ship it, and it'll all be okay, right? So, and I think that worked out well. That's one story. The other story more recently is that so we work a lot with our clients on scaling their IT infrastructure and scaling their platforms and so on, as digital platforms mostly, right? And this is one platform that's written on Rails, and it was performing rather poorly because that company went away from acquiring one customer one by one, and they were acquiring essentially companies, and they were building this whole catalog of music and that they had to be distributed and so on and so forth. And the system was under heavy load, right? And you can do only so much in terms of incremental changes, right? You can only get so much incremental value, right? It came to a point where I knew that it needed a rewrite, right? Once in a while, you need that step function change for you to be able to be effective.
Yeah.
And I kept pushing for it. So they had a process where you had to write a brief about it on Confluence, and then the team would vote on it, and then they would go. You would basically, if it gets approved, then that basically gets funneled back into the sprint priorities, and basically that gets broken down into tickets and then does that. And this is such big a change that that process cannot accommodate that, right? Because no one knows what the end game is going to look like. We don't know what is going to look like. But I had a very strong hunch that this is going to work. So I pushed for it. I was the sponsor on the project that we had on that, and he was the acting CTO, the VP of engineering actually, but he was also essentially acting as the CTO. And he said, "Hey, this is too risky. I can't push it. I don't think this is going to work. There's no one else who knows go here. Only you and this one other guy who knows how does it going to work." All valid questions, right? I mean, all valid concerns.
Yeah.
And he didn't greenlight it. But we were still fighting, right, the fire, right? I mean, we were still like, oh, the deliveries are not going through. There's so many failures. We have to do this. You cannot scale it beyond this point, or it's very painful to scale. The system was feeling very brittle. So I chose a time when he was on vacation. I took a week off as well. I just wrote it, right? And I said, hey, I wrote it. This basically takes 10% of whatever memory usage this thing has. It doesn't have any of these kind of problems. It uses IO copy, so it doesn't, do this. I also made a point to remove, say, some of the transcoding bits and all this, and then like push it back. And I had been doing that work for a while. So I said like, hey, all these transcoding concerns have also been taken care of, right? All this kind of things. This 1 week POC was like, oh, and we basically ran like 10% of deliveries through, and it performed beautifully, right? Just as I this thing, I said, hey, this is throwaway code. I haven't written any tests for it. I haven't done anything. This is just to prove a point, right? And then I basically said, let's set up another stream. Let me get one other developer. We'll just finish it off in 3 months. Don't worry about your sprint, Scrum, all those processes. We'll set up, we'll take a Kanban kind of approach. We'll just pick things on top because we know what we need. And that worked beautifully, right? So, essentially, I mean, it could have gone either way, right? I mean, you could say, oh, yeah, how dare you? And then he could have like done this.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you have the conviction and you know it's going to work, I mean, you should just do it, right? And in the end, you are the expert, right? You have leaders who are there to coach you. But in the end, you have to trust your judgment and expertise. and also follow through on that, right? And say, oh yeah, let me ship this.
So this was just a 1 week POC that you wrote.
1 week POC, but then that turned into a 3 month or a 4 month sort of like an implementation of this whole thing. And they were delivering 8 million tracks, right? So they had 8 million tracks under the catalog, and they were delivering to 50 or 60 music stores, right? So it was a pretty intensive sort of like a change. You can't just change over, like deploy a piece of software and go. So you had to like cut over store by store so that this traffic can go through.
So like when was this put in production?
This was
After
put
3 months,
production.
or was the 1 week
The
POC tried with
the
production?
1 week POC, the one week POC was tried with protection with one store with 5% of the traffic.
And how
Because
did
I knew
Sorry, go ahead.
they didn't.
So you just put it in production.
Yep.
Okay.
Like I said, let's be pirates, but be responsible pirates. I knew exactly where I was essentially responsible for the whole system anyway, right? So that's the thing, right? So when you take on responsibility, do you take on responsibility that you would just build the software, or do you take on responsibility for building and operating that software, right? So because there's a business impact to whatever we do, right? It's not just that, we ship things willy-nilly and so on and so on, right? So given that there are processes in place and all this, I think the organization was very accepting of the risk, right? We say, oh, there is this risk. These things may not go through, but if these things don't go through, we can always retry deliveries. It'll be fine, because essentially they were all being packaged and they were just being delivered by this component. So I knew exactly the kind of change I wanted to make, and I knew exactly how to do it, right? And this is also the scientific method, right? When you say, so they say, oh, you need to form a hypothesis, you need to have an assumption, you need to then set up a hypothesis, then you have to set up your experiment, and then you have to validate your experiment, right? And with software, it's the same thing, right? Whenever you do these things, you need to have an environment where you can run these experiments, right? And we had already set up our environment to allow for experiments. And this was like, being a pirate also means that you need to have that safety margins in place and say, oh, you shouldn't be burning down the ship when you're being a pirate, right? But you need to have those things in place and also be responsible. If there's a small fire that breaks out, try it in a small thing so that you can put it off and that doesn't burn down the whole ship.
Yeah, I think that was the key ingredient, that because you could afford to make a mistake, and if the mistake happened, there was a fallback. It was not a permanent harm. You could heal it. That goes a long way.
Yes, and since I had taken off, I mean, I was a consultant. I get paid by the hour, by the time. I didn't bill them for the time, right? So because it's not approved work, so I did not bill them for the time, even though they got the benefits of it, and we did this. I had that conviction that this will work for them, right? And this is that environment. You need to build that trust. So, I mean, in short, being a pirate does not mean that you're rude and you're impersonal and you are this thing. Being a pirate is all about having that responsibility, having that thing to take it to the finish line, and have a slight disregard for rules, right? I mean, you understand what rules are, and not to break them because you want to break them. It's like, if it's for the greater good, right? If it's getting in your way, then you basically decide, hey, this is not helping with the overall sort of a goal, and then you decide what you want to do.
Where is this pirate philosophy coming from? It's a great philosophy analogy, whatever you call it. Did you read it somewhere, or like how did you?
Oh yes, Steve Jobs is very, very famous for talking about this, right? Okay. And he basically had this lecture. I remember. I don't remember. I think it was Stanford or something like that, which said that there's also this movie called Pirates of the Silicon Valley. I mean, although it doesn't paint him in that great a light, and which I think is fair. I mean, he was not a very nice. He was a great guy, but not a nice person by any means, right? So no one would accuse him of that, right? So they talk about the pirate culture as well. And I think it's the same about the hacker culture, right? I mean, when they talk about the MIT hacker culture and so on and so forth, a lot of people think of hacker as a bad word, as someone who breaks information systems, right? But like the free software community.
It's a misnomer, actually.
Exactly.
Those hackers, the preconceived hackers who break things, they are actually called crackers.
That's
Um,
right. That's
and
right.
the
Right.
hackers are traditionally the white hat hackers. So the white hat adjective
Right.
is actually not needed. There is nothing called as
Right.
black hat hacker. That's just a cracker. Uh,
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
So right. So and this is that. So I think Eric S. Raymond was there, the guy who wrote the Cathedral and the Bazaar and all that, and he had this hacker emblem, which was like in the game of life, it was that gliders thing, which like zips through. Right. I mean, it just like zips through. It's the fastest game of life symbol that's there, and that's called the hacker symbol. And I used to even have a shirt that was printed with the hacker symbol that's there. So
wow.
it's I mean, so it's all about that, right? I mean, I think oftentimes we get, I mean, we think of things as, oh, a straight path of your career and say, oh, you have to do this and this and this and this, and then you'll be successful. It's not quite that straightforward. And with software being as complicated as it is and as versatile as it is, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so I have this Raspberry Pi. This is a full computer that you can run stuff on, right? You have Arduinos, you have ESP32s that are coming in, which have microcontrollers that run Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and everything on board.
yeah,
The nature of what these digital devices are is constantly changing, right? And and but to actually, confine ourselves to say, oh, I'm a mobile developer, or I'm a DevOps developer, or I'm backend, or I'm like backend Java, core Java developer. I mean, like that's too specific, right? I mean, it's just it's. I think you need to be and I think I see that with especially with all these boot camps and things coming in. A lot of people learning React, a lot of people learning Material UI and things. People come in to that and they come into that with that mindset. Oh, this is a React way of doing, and they feel that React way of doing is the JavaScript way of doing, or this is how you build UIs and things like that. And
mm,
when they see other ways of doing things, they are often they're often challenged. Some of them rise to the challenge and say, "Oh, this is cool. We should learn that." But some of them are like, "Oh no, this is good. I know how to build applications. React full stack way is the way to build applications, and we should do this." And I mean, for me, I have constantly been challenged by what is possible, what is not possible with this. Like, I mean, if you look at uh, AI and LLMs and all that, nobody could have predicted, right, that such a thing would happen. Like if someone asked me 2 years back, if this is would Chat GPT be a thing? Would we have something which would talk so fluently and have like questions on this on very deep topics, and it'll have knowledge on. We have essentially created a learning organism, right? And
yeah,
and say what you may about the privacy policy of OpenAI, or like or the motivations of Sam Altman or things. The fact that they did not use that in one corner of a company and they made it open, right? When I say open, I don't mean that they are open. So I mean, OpenAI is known, has been criticized for, oh, it's actually closed AI, it's not open, and that's all
yeah,
fine. But the point is they exposed this at the scale where it has brought it to the consciousness of pretty much the general public, right? Google had that tech as well. Meta had the tech. I mean, pretty much all these companies had this tech. Like Google has been using AI for a long time, right? Meta has been using AI for a long time, right?
yeah,
I mean, if you look at the things that are coming out of it, right? I mean, it's been there, but the fact they were using it in a corner of their companies to basically drive profit for that small like thing. But the fact that OpenAI came and like just absolutely blew everything out of the water, right?
yeah.
And everybody's like, "Oh my God, this is possible now." We have thinking machines among us. It's crazy.
So OpenAI
Yes. Mhm.
is a proprietary thing. It's actually not open. But now
True.
there are open source LLM models which are coming out, which are true open source,
True.
and it allows people to do it offline. I mean, it's evolving. It's not there yet,
Right.
but it allows people to do exactly the set of things that OpenAI does, which is chatting, which is generating images, which is generating videos, which is generating audio, voice. All of those models are coming out in the open domain, which just unleashes tremendous power in
Mhm.
open, right? So
Correct.
yeah, that's an amazing place to be, amazing place to live, amazing time to live right now.
Amazing time to
Um,
live. Yeah.
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 Also, your point on React and all the boot camps that are happening, right? Yes, there are, like 10, 20 different ways of doing it. But to get it right, you have to start somewhere. You cannot
Agreed.
start general. It's going to be too abstract. It's going to be too complex to make sense of. So you have to start with a language, a framework. But keep in mind that there are more languages, there are more frameworks, there are more paradigms, and learn this one properly so that you can appreciate the others. And then learning a second language and a second framework is like 100x easier if you have learned the first
Definitely.
one correctly.
Yes,
Uh,
I would say learning the third language becomes easier. Learning the second language is always harder because you have to unlearn some of the learnings that you had the first time, right? So it's let me put it in this perspective, right? So if someone is learning TypeScript or JavaScript now, right, and the second language they pick up is Go, right,
hmm,
which has a completely different way of doing things, but it's still not too far, it's not too far from this. But the receiver pointer types that are there, the whole idea of channels and the model of concurrency is not the same as async await. It's not, so it's different enough. So for someone who's learned the first language, right, it's all about how I get to do, they are learning how to solve a problem with the tool that they have, right? When you get another tool, right, you're now learning that tool and like what makes this tick, right? And how is it different from this tool? That actually makes that it's extremely valuable. It's extremely valuable to learn another tool that way and to
yeah,
compare and contrast how this works with it. And that I feel is harder than the first time you learned this language, right? When you learn Go after you learn JavaScript, Go can hurt your brain in like 1,000 ways, right? To do that.
yeah,
But then you learn types of Go and then you go to Rust or you go to Java, then you'll be like, yeah, I've seen these patterns here. I've seen these patterns here. Oh, they tend to do this here and so on and so forth. But again, from there, if you go to Haskell, which says, oh, you cannot assign variables. No, that's not allowed, right? You cannot change, you can't do plus equal to something, right? And that again changes your, and it's the same thing, right? Because you've thought of your model of computation in like a von Neumann kind of like a typical, that are like, oh, I do, or a set of like tasks to perform. And then here, there is something which is completely declarative, right? Completely saying that, hey, it just makes assertions on like, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this. So given this, it should be this, right? So it's purely declarative, and that is that's again this thing, and I feel that is where the value is, right? When you get into this field, know that you are getting into essentially you're signing up for research essentially, right? You're signing up for the fact that you're going to be continuously learning. Things are continuously going to get changed. The technology du jour and like the practices du jour are going to change, and good teams would often need to pick it up because no one is working with one language, one framework. They're working in an ecosystem, and as the ecosystem changes, you have to change along with the ecosystem. Otherwise, you'll be in a world of hurt. Actually,
yeah. Beautifully put. That first time you're learning the language. The second time you're learning, you're probably learning the language still, the second language. But the third time, you're learning the paradigm. You're learning better abstractions. You're no longer stuck with the syntax
right?
and stuck with language level constructs, but you start seeing things differently, and there are different patterns that emerge, which makes things easier for you to pick up.
That's
And
right.
also, yeah, you have to keep adapting because the world is changing around you. So if
Right.
you know just one language or one way of doing it, in a few years you're going to be obsolete, and it will be very
That's
hard
right.
to upskill. So from that perspective, being a pirate is an invaluable skill because it just elongates your career, and in that sense it's not a time waste.
That's
To
true.
just answer the original question, it might seem a time waste in the short term, maybe like over a horizon of a week or a month or a quarter, but over the
Right.
long term it's absolutely not. It builds your character as a developer, as a programmer.
And this is the same for pretty much other aspects. I mean, if you are in tech, it's a team sport, right? It's only so much that an individual can do. A group of talented individuals can create amazing things. Like, for example, WhatsApp. Um, they say when Facebook acquired it, had 13 people or 14 or 30 people, something less
Yeah.
than like 100, and the valuation that they raised was crazy, right? I mean, forget about the valuation and things like that. Even if you take something like an open source software, when you look at the contributor list, you would have a long list of contributors. Yes, there are some critical pieces which are still maintained by one or two people, but you would see the list of contributors is pretty large, and so on and so forth. So, and software is essentially a team sport. So it makes sense also to build empathy, right, to for other people as well, how what their motivations are, how they what makes them tick, and also accept people as they are, right? So that's a skill. I mean, they say that's just nature. No, I think it's a skill that can be developed. You can observe people, you can observe uh, your natural. And I am not the most social person, so to speak. I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm not the extroverted kind where I will like willingly go and talk to people and all that. But at the same time, that is a skill that I built as well, right, over the course of my career, is to learn how other people think and give accommodations as well, especially if they have a constraint, learn to appreciate that constraint and then work with that, and that would take a long way. So my mother tongue is Tamil, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good,
Right.
good.
They have the saying is that if you have to go fast, you go alone, but if you have to go long, you go along with someone, right? And your career and your life is, and if you have, it is long, right? I mean, you want it to be a long career and a fruitful one, and for that you need to build this sort of like a skill so that you can get people along and go along with that.
Give us the original version in Tamil.
So the original version is like சீக்கிரம் போனோம்னா தனியா போகணும், தூரம் போனோம்னா கூட யாராவது போகணும், கூட கூட்டிட்டு போகணும்.
Okay. So one might ask that you're talking about the pirate mindset and all this tinkering and learning tools. We talked about whether it is waste of time or not. A different question might be, why is this, like, how do we know it's still relevant? Because you're talking about early 2000s, it's like 20 years ago. Practically 3 generations of tech has changed since then. 7 years is one generation. So how is it still relevant? Like, how do we know?
I'll go even longer, right? I think we were talking about it a little earlier as well. We're talking about the Mythical Man-Month, right? And there are these things which the commonly you hear people say, oh, there is no silver bullet, right, to this. That no silver bullet is one of the essays in that book that was written in 1975. It's almost 50 years now. It's still relevant, right? Another thing that I often see in microservice-based systems now is that they'll show me this map of all the microservices that are talking and linking to each other, and say, I'm like, give me the data structures, right? Give me what tables are they affecting? What are the data structures that each one owns, and how do they affect? And from there, naturally the system will fall in place, actually, right? And this is again things in that book, and say that, oh, show me your flow charts and I'll continue to be mystified, and show me your data tables and I wouldn't need the flow charts. This is like one of the other quotes in the book that's there. So the nature of what software is, or the nature of this, has not changed for a long time. Yes, tools have come and gone, things have been there, but the nature of software has not changed. And I also have a pet peeve against agile, scrum, all those kind of things as well, right? So I feel there was extreme programming, which was very valuable, and extreme programming was all about do pair programming, shorten your feedback cycle, continuously keep shipping software, make changes small. Like that's extreme programming. And the extreme programming was distilled down. The project management aspects were distilled down, and it basically became like agile systems. And from there, it became Scrum. And Scrum basically devolved into a series of ceremonies without a trace of any of the extreme programming practices in there. So, and if you have seen, I mean, there's been quite a bit of a lashback against Scrum. Say, oh, Scrum doesn't work, or Scrum versus Kanban, Scrumban, scaled agile frameworks. I mean, and they call several other sort of like derivatives of that, where they are only focused on addressing the project management and the people interaction part of it, and not the engineering aspect that needs to get coupled along with this, actually, right? So do this, and that is again another thing I feel like being a pirate, a hacker, a craftsman, or whatever, they need to be cognizant of, because sometimes you're so into that pirate hat that you tend to say, hey, let them do whatever that they want to do. It's the project managers who are doing this, or the product managers who are doing this. No, it's not the case, right? You got to fight to make sure that those processes and practices make sense, because, like I said, it's a team game, right? You cannot do much as an individual. You have to work in a team, and you have to make sure that there are other pirates in the team, right? A product manager should be a pirate. The project manager should be a pirate. The DevOps guy should be a pirate. Everyone should be a pirate. Being a pirate is not about, oh, I'll work alone, right? Pirates are in crews and they have this thing, right? So you need to, if I may extend that analogy, you need to have a ship that can like go the fastest and all those kind of things. And the good sign of these, good crews is that they are the best at what they do, right? And you need to have, and building software is so simple, and that's why VCs, right? They pour money into companies, or earlier. I mean, now VCs are a little different, but initially the reasoning behind where VCs essentially were like very generous with their money is that they knew that getting good talent costs money, and good talent essentially can be the decider of whether a company flips or not. Essentially, if it's the intellectual property, right? But now, with given operation and heavy startups, then things change for a little bit. But where tech is the differentiator and not the enabler, I think having a strong team actually makes all the difference. And you all need, I mean, you need as many pirates as you can get on board.
Awesome. So Mythical Man-Month, those who don't know, is a book that came out in 1975. And that was before Microsoft started. Like, yes. Microsoft was incorporated. And that was before Apple was incorporated in 1976. And the book came out in 75. So it was being written probably a few months before, maybe in 74, it got started, like Gordon started writing. Concepts are old. And it still works. Yeah, like cool. Yeah, this was one hell of a conversation, and thank you for that, Vagmi.
Absolutely, man.
Loved the insights about being a pirate, why it's a timeless advice, and why it elongates your career. So
yes, absolutely. I do have one thing to plug in the end. I am actually starting off as my sort of like a YouTube, Twitch streamer kind of a category. So yes. I'll put the links below. I'm completely new to this, so watch me make really silly mistakes on stream. Right?
Yeah, go visit and watch Vagmi. What do you do on your stream?
So mostly programming. So I've been exploring. So I'm running a small. So I've started building a small product called Vivary, which is in the generative AI space. The goal of this company is to actually allow existing products to add Copilot onto their product suite really quickly. So essentially, you can come up with a prompt. You can we can expose your prompt as API and quickly add it to your existing product, SaaS product, or what have you. So this is a startup that's tackling that. It's just me, and I'm building all this out in the open. I'm doing all these experiments, and I'm streaming pretty much everything that I'm building. I'm not as regular as this, but I'm slowly getting into the groove of this.
Yeah, looking forward to do more streams. Looking forward to you doing more streams. And good luck with your product. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Awesome. Absolutely. It was great having you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bhavin. Bye. Cool. It was a pleasure speaking.